Lights, camera, silence on the set, tape rolling. 3, 2, 1, action. All right, you A pushers. It's time to get that second half of chapter 17. Let's get it done. This one should be pretty quick, a lot quicker than the first half. So let's get that knowledge. I know you guys love the banter, but I know you're here actually for the knowledge. So let's get it. These notes are over the New South, and then agrarian discontent, or the farmers are angry. All right, the New South. The New South is the South after Reconstruction is over, the South during the Gilded Age. We see urbanization, or the growth of cities. We see some industrialization. This includes improved railroad systems. Birmingham becomes a steel hub. Memphis becomes a lumber, focuses on lumber, and Richmond focuses on tobacco and textiles. So we're going to start seeing the factories, but it's going to be, there's going to be continued poverty as it's still largely agricultural, and the northern bankers are going to dominate the southern finance. It used to be in antebellum America, the richest people in America were in the South. The large plantation owners were multimillionaires, and that was where the wealth was. But now, in Gilded Age, it's the monopolies and trusts in the Northeast and even in the Midwest that are going to be where the money's at. Some causes of this continued poverty is the late start to industrialization, a poorly educated workforce. The agriculture is growing cotton. They make too much. This leads to a drop in prices. There's tenant farming, sharecropping, and debt. One notable person is George Washington Carver. He's an African-American teacher at the Tuskegee University. He works to diversify southern farming, including soybeans, peanuts, and sweet potatoes. Students, George Washington Carver is credited with inventing peanut butter. So all them PB&Js out there. Segregation. After the Civil War is over, the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment freed the slaves, gave everyone citizenship to anyone born in the United States, and guaranteed African American males the right to vote. But as we saw, the racists in the South were trying to make sure that African Americans were kept politically, socially, and economically unequal. This led to a condition called segregation, or separation of the races. If you recall, Reconstruction ended in 1877 with the bargain, or the Compromise of 1877, which allowed Rutherford B. Hayes to become president. Because he became president, the Republicans agreed to remove the Union troops. As soon as the Union troops were gone, Redeemer governments, which were white racist Democrats, take over and began to discriminate and codify discrimination against African Americans in the South. This came as the form of Jim Crow laws. These are the laws that enforced racial segregation in the South. Also included in this is taking away African American civil rights to vote using the poll tax and literacy tests. In the Supreme Court case Plessy versus Ferguson, Plessy sues the Ferguson to reverse the Jim Crow laws, but the Supreme Court rules that segregation was lawful if the state provided, quote, separate but equal accommodations, which becomes known as the separate but equal ruling. Separate but equal is going to persist, and segregation is going to persist all the way until the 1954 Supreme Court ruling, Brown versus the Board of Education of Topeka, Kansas. African American civil rights are taken away when they couldn't do it lawfully. The white racists in the South would resort to terrorist activities, such as the KKK would lynch people. Responses to segregation. There's many different responses. In class, we read the poem, How Most People Just Dealt With It. Some other people moved west. These were the exodusters moved out west to escape discrimination. African Americans also would move north, like poor Lawrence Dunbar's parents. They just left the South and moved to Ohio. Ida B. Wells was a famous journalist who led an anti-lynching campaign to bring people's attention to the fact that African Americans were being killed when they tried to exercise their civil rights. Many African Americans moved to the west or the north. Accommodation. Booker T. Washington, who established the vocational college, Tuskegee University, he focused on making sure that former slaves and African Americans were trained in skilled vocations, making them more valuable, and ultimately strive for economic equality. He wanted African Americans to move into the middle class, and from that base start demanding political and social equality. W.E.B. Du Bois criticized Booker T. Washington. He was the first African American to graduate with a doctorate from Harvard University. He was very educated. He wrote books and became the president of the NAACP, which is the National Association for the Advancement of Colored Persons, which was an organization that fought for African American civil rights. All right, switching gears now, we're going to talk about the problems of the farmers out west. So we learned in the first half of chapter 17 that hundreds of thousands of Americans were moving out west, especially because of the Homestead Act of 1862, because they could get 160 acres of free land. This encouraged lots of people to move out west. But there was all sorts of problems that came associated with this. So one was changes in agriculture. The people who were moving out west were not growing just enough food for their family to survive. They were commercial farmers. To do this, they needed large plots of land, but also needed large, expensive machines, tractors, combine mower, reapers. And so to get these things, they had to borrow money. So they had to borrow money for these expensive supplies. And then the prices fell. As they increased production, they overproduced, which lowers the price, and prices started falling, especially for food. This is known as deflation, the opposite of inflation. So at the end, as falling prices go down and they borrowed money, these farmers owe these banks money, and the only asset that they have that the banks really want is their land. So they foreclose on their houses and their farms, and farmers without farms can't farm. Monopolies and trusts would also manipulate prices, especially the railroad monopolies would overcharge farmers because they had no choice but to ship their food on these monopolistic railroads. This made the farmers really, really angry, and they wanted the government to do something about it. But the government was ignoring them because the government was laissez-faire and corrupt, as they were, their campaigns were being influenced by these multimillionaire monopolies and trusts. So the farmer had to come up with solutions, much like the industrial workers had to form labor unions. The farmers also had to come up with their own solutions. So they tried to unionize through the National Grange Movement, a labor union for farmers. They created cooperatives. They lobbied state governments for laws to help the farmers. They got Congress to pass the Interstate Commerce Act of 1886, which was the first attempt by the federal government to regulate railroads. It set up the Interstate Commerce Commission, but it helped the railroads more than farmers until later. The Farmers Alliance, Economic and Political Action for Farmers, they start becoming more focused on changing the laws at the federal level and even at the state and federal level. The Ocala platform is the foundation for the creation of a third party, which we're going to talk about later. The third party is known as the Populists, or the Party of the People's Party, or the Party of the Angry Farmers. It includes some of the things they really, really, really wanted was the direct election of senators, a lower tariff, a graduated income tax, a new banking system, and they wanted to increase the money supply in circulation to create inflation. And that, students, brings us to the end of our Chapter 17 notes. It was a quick one today. I hope you guys appreciate it. Make sure you like, subscribe, and add. If you have questions or anything, put it in the comments, and I will try to get back to you. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys next time.